Today is the 21st of January 2026. Yesterday I talked mainly about the mindfulness. Especially I talked about its immediate benefits, the immediate benefits that meditators can enjoy when mindfulness is present. The protection, blocking, defending, a sense of safety, freedom, calmness, peacefulness, joy and mental comfort. And at the end of the talk I explained how mindfulness develops, or the nearest cause to give rise the mindfulness, and that is the form or steadfast perception which recognizes and records the presently arising object. And I mentioned that is the why meditators should keep observing, recognizing and recording each and every presently arising object without discrimination. Once mindfulness has arisen through form and steadfast perception, that mindfulness itself becomes the cause for another moment of mindfulness to arise. Mindfulness begins with the form perception and then sustains itself through the own momentum. This can be compared to the process of acquiring education. The lesson learned in the grade 1 becomes the foundation for the learning the lesson in the grade 2. Then the lesson learned in the grade 2 becomes the foundation for learning the lesson in the grade 3. In this way, the lesson learned in lower grades becomes the foundation for the learning the lesson in the higher grades. In this way, mindfulness itself becomes the cause of the another mindfulness. In other words, the preceding moment of mindfulness becomes the proximate cause for the arising of the succeeding moment of the mindfulness. Just as one step supports the next in walking, one moment of the mindfulness supports the next in meditation. The mindfulness developed in sitting becomes the cause for development of the mindfulness, to develop the mindfulness during walking. Mindfulness developed in walking meditation becomes the cause of development of mindfulness again in in sitting meditation. Or if I were to speak more profoundly, the mindfulness developed while rising becomes the cause for the mindfulness developed in falling. Then the mindfulness developed in falling becomes the cause for the mindfulness developed in the next rising, then next falling, then next rising, next falling. In this way, every preceding mindfulness becomes the cause for the next mindfulness to develop. In walking, the mindfulness developed in right step becomes the cause of arising the mindfulness in the left step. Again, the mindfulness developed in left step becomes the cause of the arising of mindfulness in again another right step. Or the mindfulness developed in lifting, it becomes the cause of arising the mindfulness in moving, and then in dropping. In this way, every preceding mindfulness becomes the proximate cause or the foundation for development of the succeeding mindfulness. That is why unbroken, continuous mindfulness is required in order to develop the stronger mindfulness, in order to build up the momentum.
Và đó là lý do vì sao mà cái sự chánh niệm một cách liên tục nó đòi hỏi ở đây. Khi mà chúng ta chánh niệm liên tục, không khoảng trống, không khoảng hở, thì lúc này chúng ta mới có thể phát triển chánh niệm của chúng ta trở nên một cách vững mạnh được. Nó giúp cho chánh niệm của chúng ta nó trở thành một cái đà chánh niệm.
That is why we often remind meditators to observe continuously. We urge them to observe continuously without any gap, interval, and without any break. We emphasize, we urge them to connect the sitting meditation with walking, walking meditation with sitting. When sitting meditation is connected with walking, walking with sitting, is a momentum of mindfulness builds up. And when mindfulness, the momentum of the mindfulness builds up, it gives rise the concentration. If there is no momentum, if mindfulness is weak, if it is not unbroken, not continuous, then it is really hard to develop a good concentration. Generally, meditators sitting and walking meditations are not connected to each other. There are so many gaps, intervals, or they work hard during the sitting meditation, but when time is up, they simply open the eyes, they look here and there, and they get up suddenly, and they walk to the place where they practice walking meditation. So without mindfulness, meditators perform all these actions. Only when they start walking, again they resume their mindfulness. This means there is a huge gap between sitting and walking. Sitting and walking are not connected to each other. In fact, when the sitting session is over and you want to open your eyes, first you should note the intention, like wanting to open twice or thrice. Then slowly and mindfully begin to open your eyes while mentally labeling like opening. If you observe carefully at this stage, you may notice many subtle experiences like stickiness, heaviness of the eyelids, hardness, ease in opening the eyes, difficulty, then delay or no delay at all. Sometimes both eyes may open together, and other times when eyes may open slightly before the other, and so on. After opening the eyes, what is the next object to observe? Almost all meditators experience a break in mindfulness in this point. They may start looking around, relax for a while, or become caught up in thinking. But in fact, as soon as you open your eyes, you should immediately note looking, seeing. Then without delay, continue observing your actions. For example, if you want to switch your hands or legs, you may note as wanting to switch, or wanting to move. Then you begin to switch or move your hands, legs, one after another. After that, what do? If you bow down, then you may not wanting to bow down. While bowing down, you should observe the lowering your head, lowering your hand, placing your hand on the ground, placing your head on the ground, then raising up your head. In this way, all actions must be observed that take place when you are bowing down. After that, if you are about to stand up, then not wanting to stand up, not minimum twice or thrice, then stand up mindfully, observing and noting, standing. Then after standing, if you adjust your clothes, then note as adjusting. If you want to turn around, then note as wanting to turn, then turning. If you want to make step, or if you want to begin to step, then not wanting to step. Then when you start to make a step, that is the point your walking meditation begins. Generally, meditators do not count walking meditation those steps. In fact, wherever you make your steps, counted as walking meditation. So that is the beginning of the walking meditation. If you observe in this way, then your sitting is well connected with walking meditation. Similarly, when you finish walking meditation, when you are about to walk to your sitting place, you may note wanting to walk. When you reach to your sitting place, pause and stand still for a while. Notice standing twice or thrice, then wanting to sit down, then sitting, then maintaining the posture, then at last wanting to close the eyes, then closing, and as soon as you close your eyes, focus on abdomen instantly. If you practice in this way, then walking is connected to the sitting. Your sitting and walking and sitting are connected means the effort, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom, faith developed in sitting are connected with the effort, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom, and faith developed in walking are connected to one another. Before invention of the matches, people had to rub to rocks or the woods one against to another to start fire. They had to rub continuously because each rub or each strike produces a heat. Each strike produces a little of heat, and that each little of heat is crucial to start the fire, because every strike or the rub accumulate the heat, and eventually the fire starts. If they pause again and again, if there is so many pauses or the gaps between two rubs or the two strikes, then fire cannot start. Similarly, if there are so many gaps or the intervals between two mindfulness, then momentum does not build up, then concentration does not develop, then no wisdom, because every single mindfulness is crucial, essential in practice. When you practice continuously with unbroken mindfulness, then mindfulness becomes stronger and begins to gain momentum. And as mindfulness gets momentum, it allows concentration to arise. Concentration does not come by force or willpower alone. It depends on the presence and continuity of the mindfulness. This is why I just mentioned we cultivate mindfulness not just in formal sitting or walking meditation alone, but also during daily activities, like standing, moving, eating, speaking, or walking. The flow of mindfulness throughout the daily activities that conditions for the development of the concentration naturally. The longer the continuity of unbroken mindfulness, the deeper that mindfulness becomes, and the deeper the mindfulness, the easier it is for concentration to arise. This is how concentration develops. So now we will talk about the concentration. Concentration in Pali as samadhi and technically as ekaggata, meaning on pointedness of mind. The characteristics of samadhi concentration is non-dispersal, non-dissipation, or non-scatteredness. This means that when concentration is present, the mind does not disperse, dissipate, or scatter. Instead, it sticks with the object of observation, remains calm, and stay firmly present with the object. The function of samadhi is collectiveness or unification. It unifies or gathers together all coexisting mental factors onto a single object. For example, when you observe the rising and falling, rising of the abdomen, and concentration is present, all the mental factors, including the mind itself, are unified on the rising. When you observe falling and concentration is present, it collects the mind and all associated mental factors into that falling, not allowing the mind to scatter. Similarly, when you observe sensations, movement of the feet, or daily action, if concentration is present, the mind remains stable and collected. All the energies and mental factors are well unified in the object of observation, rather than being pulled in different directions. There are two analogies mentioned in the text to clarify the function of the concentration. The first is that of a king on the battlefield. Just as a king, upon seeing which part of his army is weakening, goes directly to that spot, and wherever the king goes, the army regathers, strengthens, and regains order. Once the enemy is driven back, the troops again rally around the king. The same way, in the mental battlefield of meditation, when the associated mental factors become scattered or distracted, it is samadhi that brings them together. It restores focus, unification, and the mental order. The second analogy is that of water binding flour to make dough. When you make dough, you begin with dry flour. If you pour in water and knead it, the flour particles came together and form a single cohesive mass. Without water, the flour remains loose and scattered, but once water is added, it holds everything together. In the same way, samadhi functions like water. It binds together all the associated mental factors, allowing the mind to become unified, stable, and workable, just like well-kneaded dough. Calmness is the first manifestation of samadhi. This means that when concentration is present, the mind is calm and composed. This is because the defilements that disturb, agitate, and cause restlessness in the mind are temporarily absent. When these disturbing factors are suppressed, the mind naturally becomes peaceful, steady, and quiet, revealing the presence of samadhi concentration. I have mentioned that when mindfulness is present, it protects, blocks, and defends the mind, keeping it safe from defilements by not admitting them and by freeing the mind from their influence. Mindfulness also helps to free the mind from distraction. However, when concentration develops, it goes further. It suppresses or dispels the defilements more deeply and effectively. When concentration dispels or eliminates the defilements more deeply and effectively, the mind becomes purer, cleaner, and a sense of calmness and stillness becomes more vivid and clear. Concentration samadhi eliminates or dispels defilements temporarily. The text refers to this as tadanga pahana, which means dispelling defilements by way of temporary suppression or momentary elimination. When concentration is strong, defilements such as greed, hatred, restlessness, and doubt are cut off. They don't arise in that moment. As a result, mind becomes cleaner, purer, and more peaceful. And this clarity allows for deeper insight to arise. I just mentioned about the momentary elimination. In fact, there are 3 levels of elimination of defilements. First, tadanga pahana. Tadanga pahana means momentary or temporary elimination. This refers to the momentary elimination of defilements through the arising of opposing wholesome mental states. In meditation, when mindfulness and especially concentration are strong, defilements cannot arise. They are cut off at that very moment. At that very moment, they are eliminated or dispelled temporarily as long as the wholesome state is present. This type of elimination can be applied not only during formal meditation but also in daily life. Suppose when anger rises and you consciously cultivate loving kindness, metta is opposite. This is tadanga pahana. When you feel stinginess and you intentionally develop generosity, dana, that too is temporary elimination through substitution. When issa, envy, arises and you reflect with appreciative joy, which is mudita in Pali, toward other success, that defilement is momentarily removed. In each case, the unwholesome state is not allowed to dominate the mind because a stronger opposing wholesome state has taken at place. However, momentary elimination of defilements during meditation is more effective because the effort, mindfulness and concentration involved are generated through bhavana. Bhavana means mental development or cultivation. During meditation, mind is trained, collected and intentionally directed toward wholesome states. It is like lightning flashing in a dark night. For a brief moment, the darkness disappears and everything becomes clear and visible. This is the momentary elimination of darkness. In the same way, when momentary concentration arises during meditation, it dispels the defilements temporarily. Although defilements are not yet eradicated or uprooted, they are pushed away and the mind becomes cleared, focused and undisturbed, unified, just like the flash of light that overcomes the darkness. Even if for a moment there is elimination is there and mind is clean and pure at that very moment. In this way, the concentration that you develop during meditation eliminates the defilements momentarily. Every time when concentration is present, defilements are eliminated, eradicated temporarily, and defilements are not present at that moment. Hence, mind is peace, calm, clean and clear at that very moment. So this is about the Tadanga Pahana, momentary elimination. Yet to talk about the two more elimination, we will continue tomorrow. For today, through the continuous development of the mindfulness, may you be able to develop the momentum and a strong mindfulness, and through the development of the momentum and a strong mindfulness, may you be able to develop concentration, and through development of the concentration, may you be able to eliminate the defilements.